Okay, guys, it's a little bit past 6, so we'll go ahead and start. Remember, these meetings are recorded. If you ever miss one, you can view it when I post it later. We'll do the little 3 quiz, number quiz tonight, so you get it out of the way. Those that aren't here, I have to go back and watch the meeting and kind of take that on their own. I'm going to screen share with you first, so you should be able to see what I see. And let's examine this week. I'm in the modules section of Canvas. Over here on the left, you click modules. And we're in week 4. Now remember, all the assignments that have grades are listed here with points. This doesn't have points, so it doesn't have a grade. Same thing here. This one has points. That's the little quiz we'll do tonight. Get it out of the way. This is a little quiz from a video. It's a short video, a short quiz. And then there's a little discussion, which is worth 20 points. I change them to percentages, but it lists points in here. So the first big assignment is not really until week 6. That's test number 1. Test number 1, you should be working on your study guides. Chapter study guides 1 through 3, spotlights A and B. Those 2 are study guides. Remember, we've been over this before. You can work on them in the study guide room, open every Wednesday from 1 to 5. There's a link to it on the homepage. Get with other students, and they work some, and you work some, and you exchange answers, because you can use the study guides on the test. Once again, 90% of this test is made from the study guides. Close to 100%. When I say at least 90% is made from the study guides. The same questions on the study guides are the same questions on the test. Now, they're worded exactly. Now, however, the study guide does not have the answers on it. You have to look up the answers. And in a bunch of them, you don't know if it's true, false, or A, B, C, D. None of these are short answer. They're either true, false, or multiple choice. Well, if it doesn't tell you and you're not sure, then just jot down a few notes. It might say vitamin D is, and you have no idea is what. Is this, what are the choices? Well, put in your book, just jot down a few things about vitamin D. For example, it's fat soluble. There's 5 different forms of vitamin D, whatever, just put a few notes on it. You can even put the page number in the book. And that way, when you come across that question on the test, which will have the answer choices, you'll have some hints there. Some of them are obvious, but some of them aren't. There's a little bit of ambiguity on the study guides. I realize that. Not all of them are like that, but some of them are like that. But going back to this week, right here, remember, all the assignments for any week open Sunday at midnight, and they close Sunday at midnight. So nothing is really due until Sunday at midnight. That's why this says September the 10th, the 10th, and the 10th. Although today's the 5th, and we'll get it done today, those that miss this meeting have until Sunday night at midnight to watch the video and take that little 3-number quiz, which we'll do that in here. So I'm going to stop the screen share. I want to discuss a little bit. I don't want to, spend the whole time just giving you information that's not really on the test or whatever, because there's so much in nutrition. I try to at least make it worth your while to be in these meetings to give you a little bit of an advantage, when you take the test, because you're there. That way it encourages people to be here. But once again, I've got a mosquito flying around. I know the mosquitoes are really bad this time of year. It's the worst I've lived here 25 years. I've never seen mosquitoes this bad. I don't know what it is. I don't know if anybody notices this. They're really small and they're really hard to kill. They're very sneaky. I think they evolved natural selection to be that way. But anyway, that's getting off the subject a little bit. It's annoying when mosquitoes are in your house, especially at night. You have one buzzing around. You literally have to get up, turn on the lights, and get rid of it, or else it'll keep you awake all night. End up biting you. several times. That has nothing to do with anything. Like I said, this class is a little bit different as far as information you're going to be exposed to. That information, well, somebody said flies too. Yeah, flies. Actually, these are, they're not technically mosquitoes, they're biting, I think biting flies, really small ones. That's evolution. But hopefully you'll have enough. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything I say, but I've been around this field long enough and studied it and come across all kinds of interesting, interesting and new information as far as nutrition goes. That's why I think most people, they're very ignorant on it. Doesn't mean, when you say somebody's ignorant, it doesn't mean they're stupid. It means they just don't know. A lot of nutritionists don't know, doctors don't know, general people don't know, health people don't know. Some do. They're catching on, but some don't. But that's why I teach. I want you to have an understanding of there's two kind of schools or modes of thought on teaching, no matter what subject it is. One of them is you teach part to whole. They do this in math a lot, and I think that's why math is so confusing a lot of times. I've taught math in high school, and it gets confusing because they write all these little parts on the board. You have to remember this part and this part and this part, how things go together, working formulas, and you kind of get lost. You lose the concept. That's called part to whole, teaching little parts and trying to build a whole picture. And then there's another school of thought, which is the one I adhere to or try, and that's teach whole to part. I try to teach you to understand the whole picture. Then you can break it down and look at the individual parts. Because if you understand the individual parts and you can't put them together and look at the whole picture like a puzzle, you'll get lost. You just will know what the parts look like. Like you know what vitamin C is, or vitamin D, all the different parts and what they do. You may know all that, but it doesn't mean you can put them together and have a whole picture of nutrition. What's going on, what's going on in the body. So I teach the whole depart method. And so the whole depart method means look at, rather than getting hung up on like memorizing all the vitamins and what they do, look at vitamins in general, which we're going to talk a little bit about tonight, and kind of break it down to individual parts that you may or not necessarily need to know, because you already have an understanding of the whole picture. Like going back to the example of a puzzle, the 1,000-piece puzzle, if it's all together and you look at it, you go, oh, that's the picture. But if somebody takes a piece of that puzzle and says, and look at this, tell me what it is, you may have no idea. You may not know, I don't know, it's part of this, part of that. But you don't need to know because you already understand the whole picture. You'll know enough about the individual pieces to form an entire perception. And I think that's where people get lost in nutrition, is they can't see the whole picture. You've heard the phrase, you can't see the forest because of the trees. That's kind of what happens with nutrition. They get hung up on details and forget what is really important. Now, this is a little bit of a review from last time, but I know this is on the final exam. It may be on the first test. I know it's on 2 or 3 different tests, but once again, you probably have this written down. It's on the home page. The 3 definitions, or actually 4, maybe 3, I don't know, that I want you to remember. This is a whole to the part. All right, I know this is, like I said, I know this is a little bit of a repeat. The first one we talked about is apoptosis. AP, I'll type it in here. A-P-O-P-T-O-S-I-S. Apoptosis. That is, if there is one word you need to understand in nutrition, that's the word, apoptosis. What, when it said to an individual person, I want to send to everyone. Let me type it in again. I think it's went to one person. Okay. Apoptosis. Without getting too hung up on the technical definition, it simply means programmed cell death. Like I said, I know it's a repeat. Programmed cell death. That's what it means. Programmed cell death. There's journals written about it, studies, Nobel Prizes awarded, just getting the real detail on it. Apoptosis. What does that have to do with nutrition? Everything. Has everything to do with health, longevity, disease, you name it. Once again, the whole to the part. We're nothing but a bunch of cells, about 100 trillion cells, phenomenal number. These cells live and die, and they're programmed to die when they get old or disease or become renegade cells, cancer cells, cells that are cause problems. They don't just die naturally, they're programmed to die. Well, that's natural, but in the DNA of the cell, there's genes. Humans have about 20,000 genes that tell how tall you're going to be, eye color, how proteins work, but there's what are called apoptotic genes. These genes, when they turn on, are express themselves. They tell that cell, just that cell, kill yourself, commit suicide. Well, why do they turn on? Well, because the cell, like I said, becomes old or cancerous. It needs to die. Go out of the way. That's very important. That's how you stay alive. 50 billion cells per day do this. And this is actually on the test. I think it's on the final, so I'm getting ahead of myself. That's 1 million cells per second. You're going to make a little note of that. 1 million cells per second commit suicide. These are the cancer cells, the old cells. And the way they die, the way a cell dies apoptotically, it breaks into little capsules and is reabsorbed. It's a very natural process, sort of recycled. The other process, you don't need to know this term, is necrosis. That's traumatic cell death. You cut your finger, those cells die, surrounding cells die. You smash your finger, poisons. It's not a good way for a cell to die because it kills the surrounding cells. So that's necrosis versus apoptosis. And there's in between ways which cells die. So it's a combination of both. All cells in the body have genes that tell it to kill itself, including nerve cells, which some nerve cells can't replace themselves, but they need to get out of the way because they do damage when they become diseased or old. You have enough cells to take over, even if that cell can't replace itself. That's apoptosis. And the other definition is autophagy. Let me spell it for you. Now, make sure you learn how to pronounce that. 2 words, apoptosis, not apoptosis. Think of it, apoptosis. That's the correct definition, or correct pronunciation. This one is autophagy. Not autophagy. Think of it, autophagy. Autophagy. Autophagy is similar to apoptosis, but autophagy means self-eating. Auto, self. Phagy means to engulf or surround or consume. What that basically means, not that the cell eats itself, but what happens before the cell commits suicide, it tries to repair itself. How does it do that? There are genes inside the cell that turn on, that are related to autophagy, that tell the cell to recycle its waste products, like unfolded proteins, even viruses. The processes of burning oxidation, burning oxygen is very damaging. It creates what are called free radicals, and the cell needs to cleanse itself. When those genes turn on, that cell recycles itself, recycles waste products. It has to do with the lysosome, which is sort of the gut or the intestine of the cell. Things are sent back and recycled. It's a very healthy process, and it occurs, it runs at a high rate in a low glucose environment. Just like apoptosis, low blood sugar promote autophagy and apoptosis, which is good. Not dangerously low and not starvation. That's different. So these 2 terms are very important. Anything that promotes these 2 things will promote health, longevity, anti-aging, anti-cancer, and low blood sugar promotes these. How do you get low blood sugar? You have more time between your meals. You don't necessarily have to eat less, you need to eat less often. And the video on alternate day fasting, there's hundreds, there's thousands of studies that verify this. It's not even a matter of opinion anymore that fasting is beneficial. It's a fact. It's not an opinion. Don't confuse fasting with starvation. Many religions actually know this. Fasting is actually part of the religion. All right, so you have apoptosis, autophagy. The next one is hormesis. Hormesis. What is hormesis? And like I said, I know this is a little of a repeat, but these 3 terms come up several times in the upcoming chapter test. Hormesis means stress that causes a positive adaptation. Low blood glucose stresses your body, puts you under stress. That makes you healthier in the long run. Just like exercising stresses your heart, makes your heart healthier. Getting sick boosts your immune system in the long run, provided you don't die from it. It builds up antibodies. It's healthy. Lifting weights, walking, running, and strengthens your bones and muscles. That's hormesis. That's stress. That's beneficial. Stress is temporarily negative, but avoiding stress actually makes you less healthy than the other way around. That's actually called as apoptosis, autophagy, and hormesis. So these are the three terms that are extremely important to understand as far as nutrition goes. And they all have one thing in common: low blood glucose. Low blood sugar, not eating for a period of time, causes stress. Autophagy causes stress. Low blood sugar causes autophagy. Low blood sugar causes apoptosis to run at a higher rate. Now, you don't run it so high that would be a disease-related thing. You don't need cells killing themselves that are healthy, but that's a different issue. Usually this is inhibited by normal eating. Normal blood glucose slows down apoptosis, which allows unhealthy cells to live and replicate. Cancer cells, unhealthy cells, you need them to die. And when you constantly give them glucose, they tend to not die as much because you're feeding them constantly. You need to have stress to trigger apoptosis in the unhealthy cells. Healthy cells can handle it. Low blood glucose is not going to damage a healthy cell. This is a term that's that I think medicine kind of got away from a little bit. Hormesis. They say, oh, you need to avoid stress. Absolutely not. You need to encourage it within reason. Just like wearing a mask all the time, avoiding all viruses and bacteria because you got a mask on will actually damage your immune system. Yes, because you need to be exposed to these viruses and bacteria, especially as kids, to stress the body, to build up antibodies. And that's like otherwise you'll be like the boy in a bubble syndrome, where they have no immune system. Your immune system is developed by being exposed to viruses and bacteria. Now, don't try to make a political statement out of that. I'm not. If you want to wear a mask, that's fine. I'm not saying you do or you don't, but avoiding, like washing your hands all the time. There's studies that show that makes you less healthy. Less healthy. Don't confuse that with hygiene. That's totally different. Because you can't. We've evolved by billions of years or millions of years, whatever, to live in a symbiotic relationship with bacteria and viruses and bugs and plants and things, poisons to a degree. It's an evolution we have. Our gut is full of 15,000 species of bacteria that we've evolved to live with. You don't want to kill them all because you couldn't survive. So avoiding all this, I don't think is beneficial. That's sort of my opinion. I think it will actually stress you because it will make you less healthy because you're avoiding stress. It's like avoiding exercise because you're going to damage your heart. Temporarily, yeah, you stress on the heart, high blood pressure goes up when you get on a stair step or treadmill. Temporarily, you're having some stress, but that stress makes adaptation stronger. So I just, when people, they don't look at the long run, they look at the temporary effects of what's going on. See that? That's my cat. Anyway, the big picture. Now, I know that on one of the upcoming tests, I know we've gone over this before too, but it's worth repeating. If you don't remember anything out of this class, when you get through this class, you're going to remember these three terms, and you're going to remember the 7 components of nutrition. So I'm going to type those in. These are in no particular order. Vitamins, and I'm going to talk briefly, go over each one again. Minerals, water, fiber, phytochemicals. I can't spell. Let's see. Vitamins, minerals, water, fiber, phytochemicals. I'm leaving off. Oh yeah, there's 8 components, not 7. Fats, carbohydrates. Is that 8? Let's see, 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, not hormesis here. But these are the 7 components of nutrition. I can't, well, if you're reading in the chat, you should be able to, on your tabs, you should be able to click view chat. If you have chat, say view it, it'll show a view box of it over there. If not, it may appear on your screen, I'm not sure. On mine, it shows off to the right a little bit. But all of nutrition, everything we do, is related to one of these 7 components right here. So, just briefly, once again, vitamins, I mean, overrated. I have a whole document on vitamins. That bonus thing had vitamins in it. You need them. I never heard anybody, well, I've heard of it, but extremely rare to die from a lack of vitamins or have any long-term health consequences. Is possible, but it's extremely rare. It's more common in minerals. We're made out of minerals. We're not made out of vitamins. We're made out of minerals. We're made out of calcium, bones, phosphorus, bones, teeth, iron, part of your bloodstream, oxygen carrying component of hemoglobin, so you need it. So low iron is going to give you some oxygen deprivation, which might make you feel tired. And magnesium are related to your immune system. So minerals are part of this. So it's more serious to be deficient in a mineral than a vitamin, because vitamins you can be deficient in longer than you can for a mineral. Water obviously speaks for itself. This whole section, there's an extra credit video on water. I could spend a whole class just talking about the mind-boggling properties of water. There's like 70 almost magical properties of water. It's not as simple as H2O. It's almost like it has a essence. It's the substance of life. Water, as far as humans know, you can't have life without water. So when they look at other planets, they're looking for signs of water. I mean, they even know the angle at which the hydrogen atoms, which is 60 degrees, are attached to the oxygen molecule. And where is water made? Think about it, it's really kind of strange. It's made, it's like everything else, it's made inside of stars. You are star stuff. You're made from insides of stars. Otherwise you wouldn't exist. Not the sun, but stars that have exploded or gone supernova have created you and created the earth. Because when the universe was born, there was just basically hydrogen gas, a little bit of helium. But then, so how did the oxygen come around? How did calcium come around? Where did these come from? Well, stars fuse elements and create these, but they're still in the star. So oxygen is still in the star. And calcium, iron, and magnesium, they're in the star. Well, how did they get out? The star explodes, spills its guts out into space, coalesces, forms other stars, and forms planets. And so the stuff in you, iron, calcium, magnesium, etc., is actually made inside of stars that have exploded billions of years ago. You are made from stars. They know this for a fact. Somebody says that video is incredible. Oh, thank you. But it's really, even the ones, if you think nutrition is linked to astronomy, it actually is. The minerals, gold and platinum, some of the heavier ones, the ones that have more protons and neutrons, that have a bunch of them, they've determined that those cannot be made when stars explode. Sometimes the stars explode, they fuse other elements in that brief moment that they explode and spill out the elements that are already there. But they know that gold and platinum and some of the other heavier elements like uranium can only be made, and this is getting way off the subject, can only be made in the collision of neutron stars. And I know that sounds strange. Neutron stars are very dense stars, and when they collide with each other, that have gone supernova, but their cores are really dense, and they're amazing. A neutron star is about the size of Earth, but has the mass of like 3 or 4 suns. If a neutron star ever got close to Earth, the gravity would pull up. It would overwhelm the sun. Things would start falling up instead of down. It would overwhelm the gravity of the Earth and the gravity of the sun. It would actually absorb the earth and absorb the sun. But anyway, so the gold in your ring or in your teeth was actually made in the collision of neutron stars. Platinum is the same thing, and they know this, which is really amazing if you think about it. They used to think there's no function for gold in the body, but lately, in the last few months, they found that there might be. They found trace amounts of gold in the human body, not in the teeth. That's artificial or inserted by man, but in the center of some nerve cells, in the very center, they found a few atoms of gold. Well, remember, gold is a very good conductor of electricity, and cells use electricity, chemical/electrical, that there may be a function for gold in the body. Doesn't mean you need to take it extra, and if you take much, you'll have gold poisoning. You should never consume gold. Like gold flakes on food and stuff is actually very, very dangerous. You shouldn't do that. But it's amazing that they found that there may be some minor function for actually gold in the body. So that's minerals were made out of water. Water's amazing. There's a video on it. It talks about water memory. There's some evidence that water, if you watch this, it'll be amazing. If you go to YouTube and type in water memory, there's a lot of videos. That there's some evidence that water actually has memory. It remembers things. Now, not like our brain does, because water molecules they have a charge. They're like positive, like a magnet, positive one end and negative on the other. Very small charge. You can see my cat walking around right here. That's a wild cat rescued from coyotes. The coyotes are notorious out here. Anyway, these water molecules, he's probably going to jump up here in a minute. Or she, because they have a charge and the ends can attract, and they're so incredibly small, they can form sort of these little cells or clumps. And they suspect that these are similar to cells in the body. And water has structure. In other words, you look at a glass of water, it has structure, even though it looks the same as another glass. It depends on what it's been through. It has structure and it retains some of the memory. There's studies that actually show that. It remembers things it was exposed to. I know that sounds strange. They don't try to interpret it like human memory, but I believe there's probably some evidence for that. They've done studies on like holy water and found actually there are some properties that they can't explain that it does possess. If you type this in, not just the video I have in it, get on YouTube, type in water memory and watch some of these. Water exposed to music and they freeze the crystals. Exposed, if you listen to certain classical music, they freeze beautifully. And if it's hard rock, the crystals freeze. When they freeze them, they don't form a beautiful pattern. Yet it was exposed to the music before. That means the molecules are rearranging themselves a certain way. What significance that has, I don't know. Probably something, but it's probably more detailed it's much more detailed than I'm explaining it. Fiber is anything you eat, you don't digest. We digest about half of our food. Otherwise, we never go to the bathroom. Elephants digest about 10%. That's why they're eating all the time. We digest more like meat and fat than we do carbohydrates, which are plants. So there's different types of fiber. But just saying you don't digest. Phytochemicals, the thousands of chemicals, they've identified about 20,000 in nature. I think there's about 2,000 that we use. Chemicals in plants, these have some amazing properties. This is the one thing that you're deficient in will affect you probably more than vitamins and minerals, because you're more likely to be deficient in phytochemicals. Resveratrol in red grapes, lycopene in tomatoes, there's a whole bunch of them. Fats, there's a section on fats, which we'll get more into later. But these are the three food groups: fats, carbs, and proteins. These are the ones that have calories. These other things are contained in these food groups. Carbohydrates, don't think of them as sugars, although the books will tell you they're sugars. Just remember, they're plants. Carbohydrates are plants. If it's a plant, it's a carbohydrate. The more plant material you have, probably the better off you'll be. Fruits are plants, vegetables are plants, beans are plants, grains are plants, nuts are plants. You don't need to have separate categories of fruits and vegetables. You just have carbohydrates. You need carbohydrates. Proteins are just amino acids. They're not necessarily meat. You can get them from meat, but you can get them from beans and nuts and legumes and avocados and Even a carrot has not much, but a little bit of protein in it. A lemon has protein in it. I know that sounds strange, but it does. It has amino acids that form certain proteins. So proteins don't have to necessarily come from meat or dairy, although those are high in. But you notice meat is not on here. Dairy's not on here. Meat is not a food group. Dairy is not a food group, despite what the USDA website says. It lists dairy as a food group. That's a joke. It's not a joke. They actually believe it. That's the dairy industry. That's a scam. That's the milk industry. Milk is not a food group. Milk is a food. There's 3 food groups: fats, carbs, and proteins. That's all your body needs. The ratio depends on, I don't know. You could argue for each. You need some of each. You don't need too much of any particular one of them. And that's these terms, that's what's important as far as understanding nutrition goes. Now I want to I'm not going to keep you that long tonight, guys, but I want to talk a little bit more about vitamins, because there's a little bit of that on the first test coming up. Without getting into too much detail on vitamins, and just kind of put this in your brain a little bit. Vitamins fall into 2 categories. Now, vitamins are basically, vitamins don't have calories. So they don't have caloric value. So you cannot get energy from a vitamin. It's impossible. If you're starving to death, say you've been eating in 2 months, which is right at the verge of which you'll starve to death, and I bring you a bottle of vitamins, that's not going to help you at all, because it has no calories. You need food. It's not going to do anything for you. So they cannot possibly give you energy. So when people say they take a vitamin and have more energy, most of that is a placebo effect. They have more energy because they think they have more energy and they feel better, and that actually make them, thinking can actually make you feel better. So that may actually truly give you more energy because you simply wanted more energy. You wanted to believe it. So therefore it worked. But the B vitamins, well, going back to vitamins, there's many different definitions. Vitamins are basically enzymes, coenzymes. They're pretty small. Enzymes are basically molecular structures that are needed for certain chemical reactions in a cell. And they can speed up the reaction, slow it down, they can interact, be part of the reaction. You can do a lot of different things. They're enzymes, and they're also coenzymes. They work with other enzymes. Don't get too hung up on the definition of what an enzyme is. It gets into, molecular biology. But vitamins fall into 2 categories: water-soluble and fat-soluble. Water-soluble, many things fall into those 2 categories, but vitamins do. Means if you have a glass of water and you put it in water, it dissolves. You don't have to stir it, it dissolves. B and C are water-soluble vitamins, and there's a bunch of B vitamins. They dissolve in water. Now, fat-soluble vitamins don't dissolve in water, they dissolve in fat. In other words, you need enzymes to break them down. If you put A, D, E, or K, vitamins A, D, E, or K in water, they're like oil. They just float around. You stir it, it doesn't dissolve. So we're mainly water. So when you take those vitamins, they hang around your body a little bit longer, and it takes a while for your body to break them down and use them properly. So you're more likely to overdose or take too much of a fat-soluble vitamin than water-soluble. It's a little bit more risky. Now, it's not as simple as that, because some of the B vitamins are kind of in between. They're kind of water-soluble, but kind of fat-soluble too. It's not so easy to say there's 2 categories. It's more complicated than that. The book will tell you too. It's not exactly like that. There's in between there. But for these purposes, B and C, water, A, D, E, and K, fat. Now, oddly enough, the most toxic of the fat-soluble vitamins is the one people take the most of, which is D. Vitamin D, the doctors tell you take it for your bones, you need it, it's right over the counter, yet it's the most toxic. Now, don't get me wrong, you would have to take a lot of it to be toxic. It takes a while for vitamin D to get out of your system. You need it because it interacts with calcium for bone structure and for creating bones through osteoblasts, which are cells that create bones. You need vitamin D. But there's 5 forms of vitamin D. It's much more complicated than, say, just taking it
I don't think it's harmful to take it, but be careful about taking a bunch of them. I've known people that taking 6, 7 vitamin D pills a day because they thought it was good. And you can have vitamin D toxicity. It would take a long time to do it, and it could cause some problems. Vitamin A toxicity from that video of vitamins, you could die from that. Vitamin A toxicity can kill you. It would take a lot. It's high in the liver. The liver has a lot of vitamin A. That's a video on the sled with 8 dogs in the livers, and the guys died from vitamin A toxicity. So A, D, E, and K. Now, if you take them occasionally, I don't think it's harmful. But B and C, you could eat like candy. Nothing's going to happen. You might have an upset stomach because they're water soluble. But they all do different things in the body. Now, remember, none of them have caloric value, so it can't give you energy. However, the B vitamins, because they're water soluble, now cells, water goes in and out of the cell without your permission. When I say without your permission, it's based upon the sodium potassium concentration. And cells can take in water, take out water. Like if you have too much salt, cells retain water, or too much sodium. If you have too much potassium, the cells lose water, and that can lead to or lack of potassium can lead to muscle cramps and things like that. But it's the sodium potassium pump that controls cells, water going in and out of cells. But remember, B is water soluble. So if your body has a lot of vitamin B, then a cell can actually take in a little bit extra vitamin B with the water. And the B vitamins are known as energy releasing vitamins. They do many things in the cell, but especially like B12, cobalamin. That's one of the main vitamins in energy drinks. And B6, which is pyridoxine. If you look on those energy drinks, it'll say B6, B12, probably caffeine that gives you a boost, and maybe 1 or 2 of the other B vitamins, and something else, I don't know. And you might get a little bit of a boost from that. So I'm not saying it can't give you energy. The vitamin Bs, they don't have energy, but they get inside cells and kind of rev them up a little bit. So there may be a little bit of truth to that, because those energy drinks do work. There's nothing harmful in them. The problem with taking them all the time is you can become addicted to them, and you feel like you need them all the time when you have lack of energy. So you got to be real careful about taking too much. It's not harmful, but it's like anything else. Too much of it, and your brain gets used to it, and pretty soon you need it. And pretty soon you don't have energy because your body says, "Oh, I need a fix of caffeine and the B vitamins." So you get in the habit of doing that. And then when you don't have them, you don't have energy, and you get a headache, and you don't feel good. So you got to balance that out. Remember, whatever you put in the body, good for you or bad for you, the brain's going to get used to it because the brain wants normal. And that's the new normal for you. And pretty soon you don't have the same effect. So you need more and more and more. Alcohol, the same way. And pills, drugs, you name it. You're going to need more and more of an effect. The body's going to seek normal no matter what you do it to it. It seeks normal. Even if you do bad things to it all the time, put bad stuff in, then it readjusts itself and says, that's normal. There are people that can have 3 or 4 drinks and not feel any alcohol buzz at all. They just feel completely normal because they've been doing it so long that that's normal. It doesn't have an effect on them. Other people would be drunk. Well, that person's been drinking so long, that's the new normal. So when they don't have it, now they have withdrawal and headache and they don't feel good. So you have to go through that to get back to normal, which means no alcohol in the bloodstream, so that now your body's not craving it. It's an adjustment thing. That's why you got to be real careful with medications, because they become less and less effective over time. All medications are like that because the body seeks normal, and medications take you out of normal. Doesn't mean they're not effective. They are, but they're only effective because your body's not used to it. So that's vitamins, minerals, water, fiber, phytochemicals, fats, carbs, remember plants. Proteins or amino acids. There's a chapter on proteins. There's 20 amino acids that the body uses. 11 are considered essential, and 9 are non-essential. Essential in nutrition means it's essential that you eat it. Like certain vitamins are essential. Like, for example, vitamin C is essential because our body doesn't make vitamin C. Essential that you eat it. Vitamin D is not necessarily essential because your body can make it from sunlight exposed to skin. But you don't have to eat it. But it's better to get it from food, but it's technically not essential. Essential that you eat it. These amino acids are little bitty units, molecular units that hook together. They form a bond. It's called a peptide bond. And they link together and form proteins. That's what proteins are. They have amino acids. They're like a Tinker Toy set or Lego set. You build them, they have shapes. Proteins function by shape. Skin has a shape, hair, cells inside our body, proteins have shapes. And these shapes determine how the proteins function. They function by shape. Your body makes the shape that it needs inside the cells. The cells know how to make proteins. It takes amino acids, links them together, and makes what it needs. Cells make what they need. They take the proteins in from the bloodstream, link them together, and they build themselves. They make shapes. That's what they mean by folding and unfolding of proteins. They used to think these shapes were permanent, but they found that they can change shape and do one thing one time and something else another time based upon their shape. Sort of like change identity. There's a whole movie called Lorenzo's Oil. It's on YouTube if you want to watch it. It's a great movie. It talks about the disease adrenoleukodystrophy, which means these proteins weren't forming the shape they needed to. And this guy got an honorary medical doctor. It's a true story because his son was dying. It's a disease that affects only boys. It's inherited from the mother. And they died at the age of 10, 12 years old. They go blind, deaf, mute. It's a horrible death. They lose muscle control. So he started researching what was going on. He had a dream. He felt because he's using paper clips, which were amino acids. And he was linking them together, trying to form the protein that was missing in his son. He couldn't do it. He said, why is that protein not forming? Then, the name of the movie is called Lorenzo's Oil. Lorenzo, Lorenzo's Oil. It's on YouTube. It's an amazing movie. I like it because it's true. Lorenzo's Oil. But anyway, he fell asleep at the library and he had a dream. This is a true story. The whole movie is true. And it showed the paper clips changing shape like this to form the protein that the boy needed that he didn't have. He sort of cleansed out his system because it was building up of these fatty acids, which were killing him. And he went into the doctor's office and he said, it's the same bloody protein. The doctor said, no, that protein has the wrong shape. And he said, it's changing shape. And the doctor said, proteins can't do that. But then they found out later, they can do that. Under certain conditions, they can change shape. And that's what led to, not a cure, but sort of let's get the name Lorenzo's Oil. It's a oil that they drank, or a fatty liquid that sort of helps slow the progression of the disease and didn't cure it, but they understand the roots of it. But that's the way proteins work. They function mainly by shape. We're made mainly out of proteins and minerals. That's basically what we're built out of. Proteins and minerals, some fatty acids to a degree, but that's the substance that we're made out of. Structurally, that's what we need. And there's no muscles. One of the confusing things here about proteins is that, yeah, we're made out of protein, so muscles are made out of protein. Yes, right. So if you eat extra protein or extra meat, you'll build muscle. No, that's actually, there's many things wrong with that thinking. That was debunked years ago. When I taught weight training, people always do that. They try protein powder, protein shakes, creatine phosphate, you name it, all this stuff. Doesn't build some muscles like that. But it's true, they're made out of protein or amino acids, but they use glucose for energy. They still need glucose. Taking extra amino acids, if you put them in your body, eat extra protein or take specific amino acids, which I would never do. There's one specifically for building muscle. They sell it at LA Fitness. It's the amino acids that muscles use. Don't take it because it will interfere with the absorption of other amino acids. There have been a couple of deaths reported from that. Massive doses of taking a single amino acid fools the body into absorbing the proper amino acid that's different but very similar to that. Let your body make the decision. If you're going to take extra amino acids, do it in the form of complete protein drinks, whatever. Your body still won't take it in because cells go, okay, here's all these amino acids. I don't need them. It just rejects them. They end up being stored as fat or your body gets rid of it. So it's not going to be taken in by muscle cells, and muscle cells are going to get bigger. It just does not work like that. It's not harmful to do it to a mild degree, but it doesn't have the effect that you may actually think. Somebody asked the name of that video again. Let me type it in again. So I type it in. That's the one. That's an amazing movie. It's like a 30-year-old movie, older than you guys are, but I believe it's on YouTube. I'm not completely sure. Almost everything's on YouTube nowadays. I put stuff on YouTube too, but like this lecture tonight will be on there. Not that anybody will watch it, but so like I said, I wouldn't tell somebody that's taking proteins or amino acids, don't do it. It's dangerous. It's really not, unless they're taking massive amounts. I wouldn't tell somebody taking vitamins A, D, E, or K, it's dangerous. It's probably not, unless they're taking massive amounts, like 4 or 5 a day. Then over time, that's going to be risky. Now, going back on the minerals, guys, I'm going to wrap this up in a few more minutes. On minerals, remember, minerals are part of the earth. They're part of us. You go in chemistry, look at the periodic chart. Everything on there is in you, with the exception of the radioactive elements. It's in you to a certain degree. Almost every mineral on there is in us. Some of them have no function, but it's actually in there. Some of them are in us with no function. We have a little bit of aluminum in us. Aluminum, why? Because we cook with it and everything's made out of aluminum now, so it gets in us a little bit. No function for aluminum in the body. And in high doses, it can be harmful. But of all the minerals that you can take, the most toxic is iron, which we mentioned last time. Yes, the one people that take the most of. It's the most toxic. So be careful about taking extra iron. It's risky. Now, too little can cause problems like iron deficiency, anemia, and things like that. But taking extra puts a lot of strain on the body. You're mimicking the disease, hemochromatosis, which is too much iron in the bloodstream. It causes all kinds of damage. Yet people take iron like candy, right and left, because the doctor says, "Oh, take iron. I'm tired. You're tired. Take iron. Take iron." I wouldn't do it. There could be a million reasons you're tired. It's probably not iron. Probably hormone related, mood related, the biorhythms of the body. It could be a million things. Glucose level, a lot of things. It's probably not iron. Temporarily low in anything, it's not dangerous. That's oscillation. Things go up and down. Your iron levels go up, go down based upon your moods and hormones when you ate last. Glucose level goes up and down, heart rate goes up and down, you sleep, it goes down, blood pressure goes down, goes up during the day, goes up more when you exercise. That's oscillation. This is what keeps you healthy. Everything needs to oscillate. Blood pressure, 120/80, it oscillates every second. It oscillates. Keeps the arteries elastic, heart beats elastic. That's why we have a blood pressure. Things need to oscillate, including in the bloodstream. There are times you have extra stuff, and times you have less of stuff. So whenever you do a blood test, if it's less, it doesn't really mean anything. Is it low all the time? Then you have a problem. I mean, hormone levels, immune systems, they all function like that. Everybody knows that. You kind of feel like you're doing well, and then your hormone levels change, and you're not doing well for a day or two. That's sort of a normal thing. But yet we judge everything by being normal. Normal's not the way to go. Normal means flat. You keep everything normal, lack of hormesis, lack of everything. You need oscillation. Everything needs to oscillate. Studies are actually showing that when you don't have, for example, vitamin A, it's low. It means without it, you go blind, but that would take several years. But when it's low, nothing bad's going to happen. And then when you reintroduce it to the body, your body responds better to it. It's more efficient. Just like you don't take migraine medication for a while, you get a headache, doesn't feel good. You take migraine medication all the time, it helps a little bit, but doesn't work as effectively. Then you don't take it for a few weeks. Then you get a headache and take it, and you notice, hey, it seems to be working better. That's because you were low, your body cleansed itself. Now you took it, and it responds more efficiently. Antibiotics work that way. That's why doctors are leery about prescribing them over and over. You need the oscillation to be efficient. Somebody said, I'm going to read this question. I was told to take iron while pregnant, but chose not to since my blood work always came out fine once I gave birth. Became anemic, almost hemorrhage. I'm assuming I was supposed to take iron for preventative purposes. I don't know. I would bet, I don't know. I'd have to know more details. For example, anemic, the term anemic Doctors throw that around rather loosely. Anemic means lack of oxygen. It doesn't mean lack of the iron. It means lack of oxygen. For example, if I get on a stair stepper and I'm breathing hard, I'm anemic. That's why I'm breathing hard. Oxygen. I'm not necessarily low in iron. If you're low in iron, it's called an iron deficiency anemia. It's possible, but it's an unusual condition, and you'd have to be that way for extremely long time. Usually, severe bleeding for women, menstruation, losing a lot of blood, can cause iron deficiency anemia. In that case, you might eat spinach or liver or take iron pills. I think that would probably help to a certain degree, but make sure when your test, when doctors tell you that, make sure you insist on a 24-hour test for iron, not 12. They do 12 now. 12 is not accurate, although they all do 12. Fast for 24. If you're low in iron, then you're probably low. There's something going on. 12 hours, you can just be temporarily low. Even without eating, it'll actually go back up. Because iron's stored in the bones, and the bones will release iron. Your body won't actually let you die from lack of iron, lack of oxygen. It'll get so low that your body will actually adjust. You can't die from these things. You just can't. The body has cutoff mechanisms. Like you can't die from lack of oxygen. You hold your breath, you pass out, you start breathing. You can die from low glucose if you starve to death, but you don't die from lack of vitamin A, D, E, or K. Now you have some symptoms, some bad things can start happening. But usually the body has a cutoff mechanism that says, nope, you can't go any lower. Just like hypoglycemia, it gets low, 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 low. It doesn't go down to zero. It'll get so low, you pass out, you don't have any energy, you're not moving, you're passing out. And believe it or not, glucose levels start going back up. I mean, it does it naturally. It's not a fun thing, and it's a little bit risky to do that. But make sure any tests, iron, calcium, etc., insist on a 24-hour fast, because the body doesn't cycle every 12 hours. It actually cycles every 48 hours. If you want to know if you're truly low in iron, don't eat for 48 hours, go in and have an iron test. Then if you're low, then you're truly low. The same thing with vitamin D, which they test for all the time, or they can test for the other vitamins. If you're low in 48 hours, it's probably something going on, especially with iron. The other things like the B vitamins, I wouldn't worry about. B12, for example, cobalamin. You got enough B12 in your body to last for 2 years. You can't go without food for 2 years. 2 years of vitamin B12 stored in your liver, etc. So temporarily low, it's impossible to have any health consequences from lack of vitamin B12. Just won't happen. All these things have cutoff mechanisms. Go back to the big picture once again. The big picture is, if you're normal weight and don't eat for 2 months, you'll die from starvation. 2 months, not 2 weeks, 2 months. What do you die from? You don't die from lack of iron, lack of calcium, lack of vitamin B12. You don't go blind from lack of vitamin A. Your bones don't fall apart from lack of vitamin D or calcium. You starve to death. You have all these things happen, and before then, you starve to death. So apparently, you must have in your body at least 2 months worth of all the minerals and all the vitamins that keep you alive, because you didn't eat for 2 months, and you do. And what gets you is not lack of those vitamins, it's lack of food, which contain those vitamins. So the calories is what you need from the food, not necessarily the vitamins. Your body still has a reserve of those things. So always keep that in mind, but don't think of things on a daily basis. Think of them over the long term. You don't have to have things daily. The thinking of nutrition is DRI, dietary reference intake. You need a certain amount over time. Just like your car, you need a certain amount of oil over time. Not every day, a certain amount of brake fluid over time. Now you use it every day, but you don't need to replace it every day. Such is true of the human body. That's a healthier state to be in. Okay, guys, I want to show you, I'm going to do a screen share so we can do this little test, and I'm going to wrap it up. So if you got a pen, pencil, make a note of that, because I'm going to open it up, and then be sure and go to, I'm in the modules section. This is what we're doing right now. And you can take this, don't take it yet, because it's like a 2-minute timer on it. Don't start it yet. I'm going to open it up and give you the codes, and then you can take it when you finish here. Okay, I have to edit it. Questions. Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, question number 1, or the first code is 356. So make a note of that. First code is 356. Where's that? Oh yeah, right here, 356. They're going to be in this order. It's the third one. And then question number 2. What is the second code? I don't remember these. 362. And the third one is what? 453. So when we finish this meeting here, go back to modules, click on that, take that, enter those 3 codes, and it'll show 100%. Anybody have any questions? Okay, guys, I'm going to end the meeting. I'm going to post it later. Have a good evening, and I will talk to you later.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.